Welcome to the Short Rod Show. You're talking with Ben
and Brett.
We are up to episode 15. Thanks for everyone for tuning in this week. Got another great episode on the way.
Yeah, we're going to chat a little bit about just different lake structure. So last week we got out on the water or out on the ice, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But bottom structure, bottom content really kind of played a role into how we found fish and caught fish. So we're going to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to get out on a spot that has structure, and that's usually the place where you're going to find fish, and they're going to congregate there, and you can focus your efforts a little bit more than just punching holes around a lake, Swiss cheesing a lake, like we call it, and not finding anything.
And structure can mean a couple different things. I mean, you got kind of physical structure where you got brush piles and rock piles or pallets. And then you got lake bottom structure where you got drop-offs or you got transitions from one bottom content to another, contours, that sort of deal. So hope to break that down a little bit for you.
Awesome. And so last week, Brett, you sent me a map link for a little pond here in town in Ankeny, and we've never fished it before, and you said it looked pretty juicy.
Oh, yeah, it was big. I mean, it's a pretty good-sized lake. I'd say I've lived here for probably going on 8 years now or in the area. I bet it's at least 6 or 7 years old. And we found it was, 20 foot deep?
Almost 25.
Yeah, and some spots we were fishing. So I was like, man, this thing is going to be the juice. It's one of the bigger ones. There's got to be something in there.
Yeah, and it had already been drilled that day.
It had been, somebody had been out there. Last weekend was real cold. I mean, it was, I don't know, probably 10, 15 degrees.
Oh, it was more like 5 degrees when we were out
The
there.
wind was a howling.
Yeah, 30-mile-an-hour winds.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. You had to have your back to the wind or you were going to die. But, so we started out, somebody had been out there a little bit, so we started out there. First thing we did was kind of re-drill some of their holes to see what they were looking at, or if they had an idea, or maybe they knew what they were doing, but we kind of came to the conclusion that they did not know where they were going either.
Yeah, we didn't really see a whole lot. It was a little less than productive kind of trip.
I don't know that I for sure marked any fish out there. Yeah. Which was a little disappointing. And we probably drilled, 200 holes, 150 holes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
We burned through both our augers.
But so a couple of things that we were doing that I think is kind of important when you're going to a new body of water like that and drilling it out is kind of where you drill your holes to try to put yourself into a position where you might find fish. So the first thing that I did after we concluded that the holes that the whoever was there before was unproductive was I started out kind of in the middle, and I started just a straight line straight to the shore. So I could try to start to see where that shoreline break is, see if I could find a depth change, or rather quick depth change. And there was a little bit of one, not quite as sharp as I was hoping to find.
It was still, 3 feet right offshore, and then went to
transition down to 6, and then 10. 7, and 10, and then somewhere in that 10 to 20 foot range, there's a fairly decent transition, but we just didn't find any fish there. And I was tried real shallow. Hopefully maybe I could rattle something in, but just didn't happen. Yeah,
just kind of a muddy bottom. Threw the camera down. Didn't see any kind of movement, anything.
Yeah, we just didn't see nothing. I guess we could have walked all the way to the other side of the lake. We didn't really try that. We just tried the deep side, but
we gave it a good college try. Got to try out the cold defense, the homemade cold defense.
Yeah, so how'd that work out for you?
Bought basically it's a aquarium pump. That's a USB powered aquarium pump. It's a little black puck basically.
Yeah.
And ran a 1/4-inch fuel line off of it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right up to the top of my hole and ran that sucker off the lithium shuttle. Worked great. I need to do a little tweaking with some zip ties and
I was going to say, it looked like you maybe you had a little too much horsepower in that hole is what it kind of looked like.
It was really bubbling. That's pushing some water. It was
really bubbling.
It was to the point where it was starting to kind of melt away the sides of the snow and slush in there. So slush that's actually in the hole, it was thawing that out.
It was cleaning it out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I'm excited to use that. That was kind of the perfect day to try that, too.
Oh, yeah.
It was so cold.
Everything was freezing up quick.
Yeah. Yep, so just brutal conditions. Your reel freezes up, your line
freezes up. So did you have any problem? Yeah, did you have any problem getting ice on the line? Because I was having ice on my line.
I did until I started using that.
And then once you started using it, that cleaned it up.
Yep, and I kind of alternated between, moving my rod down into the hole a little bit.
Yeah.
And then back up. Just
that's my
keep
same tactic
moving,
anyways.
That helped, just having some of that warmer water. So that is a thing. The water below your hole
is warmer
than the stuff right on the surface.
Definitely.
Makes sense, but I didn't know how good that would work. So That's exciting.
That is kind of a game changer if it's able to kind of keep your line clear also.
Yeah, and that's $10.
That's a big deal.
You know?
Yeah, $10 is just a USB
Run off
attachment.
USB. I mean,
Dang.
yeah.
Where'd you get that at? That pump?
Just on Amazon. I think it was like $8, something like that. I had a little chunk of fuel line I was running something off of.
Used, probably.
Oh, yeah. Used stuff. I think what I might do to tweak it a little bit is put a T at the top to just kind of direct the flow.
Well,
around.
what about just punching some holes in that fuel line?
Well, see, I thought about that too. The problem is I want that T part to float. So I might even put some spray foam around it or something where that's going to determine, your depth. Because I don't really care how far the pump sits underwater and, 6 inches of hose or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
But I want the top part to kind of be on the
sit right on the
top
surface
of the water.
Yeah.
So then that way I'm thinking it can kind of raise up and down as I adjust my transducer.
Or maybe just get like one of those just a little tiny red and white bobber. They make some real tiny ones.
Yeah,
maybe just fasten that on there somehow.
Yeah, stick it on.
Yeah, man, that's kind of sweet.
Because I'm thinking like a little PVC case around it, kind of like the Cold Defense has.
So did you actually catch any fish while you were using it?
No.
Because I know once we went in the shack,
that looks like a pain in the butt.
And I was wondering, how much do you think it's going to get in the way? You get a bluegill that's a real transducer tangler.
Mm-hmm. So like if I do like a PVC pipe and fit that pump in the bottom, run the hose up through it, spray foam the top of that so the top floats.
Sure.
Then that kind of keeps it all contained, and that way you can flip it out easy.
That way at least you can get the line out of it if you get some line.
Oh yeah, true.
So
otherwise you're going to have your transducer, the line, the power cable going to it.
Well, have you tried to zip tie it to your transducer a little bit?
No, I didn't even try that.
You don't want to do that?
No, I'm not opposed to that.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't try it because I wasn't sure how it'd even work.
Yeah.
And it didn't freeze up either. That's what I was impressed with.
Ooh, nice.
I left it run in between
Well, maybe
holes.
that should be your go-to deal is just zip tie your T up to kind of water level on your transducer.
Yeah.
And then it'll just hold it on. Or your transducer cable, and it'll just kind of hold it on.
Well, that's the thing, though. I adjust the transducer
depth
up or down throughout the year. So say we go
it
somewhere.
Goes down, yeah.
Well, yeah. So you can get it below the level of the ice.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. Still a little more engineering to go, but it's very promising.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
For what I would use it for, so
nice.
That's pretty exciting. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit more on that, on some structure and different types of structure here coming up on
the Short Rod Show. Hey Ben, so I've got this buddy that's trying to start a small business, but he's having a real tough time with his digital footprint and just trying to figure all that out. Do you know anybody that could help him out?
Well, I think I do. I know a couple cool guys at this company called Evergrow Marketing, and they really specialize in helping landscape and lawn care companies maximize their digital footprint and basically bring customers to them, help them get found on the internet.
Really?
I mean, they'll work with any business. They're really looking to expand, and if you tell them that Ben and Brett sent you from the Short Rod Show, you can get 10% off your first order. Really cool.
If you're interested in the Evergrow Marketing team and what they have to offer, check them out on evergrowmarketing.com and tell them Ben and Brett from the Short Rod Show sent you.
You know, Brett, I was poking around on Facebook the other day, and I could just not find the Short Rod Show. What's the deal?
Oh, you just got to punch us in on Google.
What do you mean? We show up on Google already?
Oh, yeah. The Evergrow team hooked us up.
Holy cow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good deal. I'll try that now.
Yeah, right. You just punch in Short Rod Show, and we'll come up on our website, shortrodshow.com. It'll come up on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Awesome. So people can find us all over now.
Yeah, all over the internet.
That's great. We're also on Instagram, too. I've been trying to keep up with that. Posting some cool pictures. When we're out on the ice, you can check us out there, too.
Yeah, sweet updates.
Awesome. Check us out, guys. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for following us through the break. Today's episode, we're talking about structure, all different kinds of structure. Basically, things to look for to help locate fish on bodies of water.
Yeah.
Brett, what are you thinking that we learned last weekend?
What we learned last weekend was fish were not, the ponds we were fishing, the fish were not relating to necessarily bottom structure, but they were relating to wood. They were on trees. Mm-hmm. They were on, we were only on trees. We didn't see any pallets or anything, but that's what we kind of found. So we started out that one bigger pond, didn't catch shit, moved to another one, and did a little drilling and found a little tree Yep. Sat over it, fished it, caught a couple bluegills right away.
Yep.
And then so what we did was I shot down Ben's camera, is what, Recon 5, so it's called?
Yep.
Yeah. And the water clarity wasn't great. You really couldn't see very well.
Compared to that first leg, it was bad.
Yeah, but you could get an idea of the complexity of the structure of the tree that we were fishing. I mean, you get an idea of how dense the branches were, and if there was any needles, if it was a Christmas tree, or if it was just kind of a branch out there. And I think I concluded it was more of a branch than it was anything else out there.
Yeah, and even just the way that you drilled it out.
Yep,
you could go, a hole here, a hole 2 feet away, a hole 2 feet away from that, kind of in a circle. Yep. And when you put your flasher down, you could see different structure points,
different parts of it.
That's not necessarily a fish there. That wide red mark at 14 feet.
Yep,
it's structure.
It's just a branch.
And then going down with the camera after that to kind of locate where you want to be in relation to that.
Well, helpful. Yeah, and fishing that sort of deal, your spot on the spot makes a big difference. I mean, if you're 2 or 3 feet off, you might not even see the branch, or you might not be in the prime area. So having that camera, you can drop down, get an idea of what your surroundings are. If you can see fish, kind of see where they're grouped up at. It makes a big that camera makes a big difference on lining up exactly where you want to be. Especially if you're fishing not just those trees, but if you are fishing like a pallet house, or some people I see make those crazy ass tube tree things that they put out in their stuff,
man-made stuff.
Yeah, it's just
a
snag.
Using that camera to see, it's important too to see kind of where the tree is going or where that branch is going.
Yep,
because you can be on one leg of it, and with your auger you can see with your flasher you can see a mark on your screen.
Yep.
And think, okay, I'm on structure. Well, you're probably on the farthest edge of a branch reaching out.
Maybe you're just on a trunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not even close to the actual structure. So that's where you can throw your camera down, look all the way through, excuse me, and actually see the actual trunk of the tree or the main structure of the tree, or maybe there's multiple trees.
Yep. And that's where you can start to see the see where the complexity of it is, and see where the branches are really starting to peel off of.
Well, and that too, you can see if fish are relating to a round structure. Maybe they're out roaming around a little bit, or maybe they are tucked in tight right in it, where you're going to get snagged trying to go after any of them.
Yep. And that's what I've found a lot of times they're in it. Sometimes you can coax them to come out above it. Rarely. And usually if you coax one, you're not going to get, I don't know, I just haven't had a lot of luck.
Yep.
Coaxing them up out of it. I've dropped down into structure before and caught a few. But yeah, like you said, you're kind of chance on losing your jigs and getting tangled up and having more of a headache. So a lot of times you can have success if you just slide over to the side and you're able to drop right on the edge of that. And that's also what the camera helps you with. But the beauty of ice fishing is you can be very precise on where you want to put that jig.
Yes.
You can't move it a whole lot real easily, as easy as you can in open water. But if you want to be right along the edge, 6 inches away from, the edge of a pallet pile or the edge of your main branches or something, you can do that.
Yep.
And a lot of times the fish are a little bit more apt to shoot out the side of structure to go get something than they are to go up.
Yep.
I've noticed.
Yep, absolutely. And that fishing structure too, the baits that we use, when we know we're in the sticks, we're not going to use like our rattling flyer.
No, I don't want anything that's going to shoot off to the side.
That's going to shoot way out. You're going to get tangled up. It could get wrapped around something if you're jigging it aggressively.
Yep.
You're going to end up losing it.
Yep.
So we're more of a regular spoons that just flutter types instead of the ones that dive way off, or even like a jigging wrap. That's gonna my gosh.
And if you want to, if you're apt to doing that, dropping down, if you just cannot get them to bite any other way without putting your jig in the structure. You got to be ready to crank those suckers out of there as soon as they bite.
Yep.
A lot of times you won't be able to see them.
Yep.
Maybe you'll see a little red flicker on your flasher, but you won't see that nice clean bar move up towards your jig just because you got interference and separation from all the other sticks and stuff in the brush pile.
That's a different type of flasher pattern that you're reading on your screen, where it's a little more difficult if you're more of a novice fisherman to be able to tell what's a fish and what's actual structure, because it can still move around. Say your transducer just has a little wiggle to it.
Oh yeah. You got a little wind.
You might think a fish is coming in, but really that's just the stick you've been looking at for the past 2 hours, and it just looks like it's moving. So that'd be something, a beginner taking them out fishing. That's probably not the best way to get them trained on a flasher because they're going to get a little confused on. Okay, you said anything that comes in between the bottom and the top as red or a hard mark is going to be a fish, and that may not be the case depending on where you're at. If you got a stick there, that's going to show up there no matter what.
Yep.
And we've been fooled by it too, where we drop down, we don't think we're on structure, but we actually are.
Yeah.
And we mistake that for fish.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to tell on a flasher
You're jigging
screen.
at a branch for 5 minutes.
Yeah. That's your clue. There's your sign.
There's your sign.
I've been working this fish for 5 minutes and it hasn't changed.
Hasn't moved. Huge mark though.
Huge mark. Oh yeah. Big old fish. Yeah. So that's good to reiterate and just be aware of, because that's gotten me many times.
Yep. And then I've mentioned it in previous episodes, but how do you find some of those brush piles and stuff? Mm-hmm. And I know in Iowa at least, and I'm sure other states have it, where the DNR have a lot of these brush piles marked. There's a GPS file you can download off their website, and you can upload it to your phone through some finagling. Go back to what episode was that? No flasher, no problem.
Yep.
That's where I was talking about that. Yeah.
One of the first rounds that we released.
Yeah. If you want to figure out how to go about doing all that and hear some of that, go back to that episode. But or you just kind of come across like this lake, this pond that we were fishing, it's not marked, but some other folks had been fishing around it, and you could see where some holes were dug.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is marked now. That's the good part of having a GPS.
Yeah, I've got it marked on my Humminbird now.
Yep.
Ready to roll.
We know exactly where it's at again. Yep. You can mark it on your own map or make a mental note or whatever.
Yep.
It is helpful on bigger lakes to have that marked.
And as I mentioned before, after we kind of identified that, I wanted to kind of see where, because we weren't too far from shore, kind of where that break was. Like how far was that branch located just right off the shoreline break, or was it a little further off, or how close was it? Mm-hmm. So, I drilled the line of holes back, and I'd say, I don't know, maybe it was 10 foot off the main break off into deeper water. But, and we caught everything off of that. What did we have? We had bluegills, crappies, bass, an unknown beast.
Yeah. Man.
That was an emotional roller coaster with that, Ben.
Yeah, I had it on for a while.
Jigging up big mark. When I say big mark, it was a big
came
damn
ripping
mark.
in. So it was probably a bass.
Or I'm going to guess a carp. Or the way it just kept ripping. You didn't do anything. It just was just going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the old bullwhip couldn't handle it.
A bass will give you some play.
But it was just, I tightened my drag up a little bit. Let's say that was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, Schoolie would have had her under control.
Oh, yeah. You would have just cranked that thing in.
I would have been hand lining. I wouldn't have been cranking it.
Oh, man, you'd break that sucker off right at the ice.
Nah.
There's no way.
No
That was a heavy fish.
It was a big fish, whatever it was. Yeah, that was kind of a heartbreaker.
Yep. But that was fun. And then if you guys are following us on Facebook, you saw we had our favorite Casey's Pizza out there with us.
Picked up some Casey's Pizza, a couple bass.
Man, it's cold.
Yeah, that was a nice short, quick trip. Real windy sucker, but it was good to get out quick.
It's windy enough that one person has to be sitting in the shelter at all times.
Yeah, the shelter was going to blow away.
Flip right over.
Yeah.
Blow all the way across the lake.
That would have sucked.
Yep.
That really would have sucked.
Yep. That was good.
So, I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to mention about fishing that type of structure?
Yeah, fishing structure. Something that I always thought was really cool when I saw it for the first time was in Wisconsin, the Pallet Towers that they build.
Yeah.
That the DNR, I'm assuming, professionally installs. They have to kind of anchor them in.
Yep.
They stack a bunch of pallets up, kind of crisscross pattern going all the way from the bottom of the lake up, maybe 5-6 foot from the top. And that was really cool watching the In-Depth Outdoors episode where they fished those and showed you how to fish those.
That was a number of years ago.
It was back when Joel Nelson was on the show.
Yeah.
And he was showing how to, use, like what you said, use the GPS points. They're all publicly available, marked points for the structure to get out there and get in the vicinity of them.
Yep.
And then drill a couple holes, use your camera to precisely locate where you want to be in relation to those. With a pallet tower, you can't just drill right on top and fish it.
You're not going to get them out
You can't drill too far away from the sides either. And they were really going at trying to catch these fish, and they were not having a lot of it until they get their jig, 3 inches from the edge of the pallet.
Yep.
The fish were schooling up inside the pallets, and they were just kind of peeking out.
Yep.
And you had to be right by their nose to get them to
their
come
whole
out.
body, they would not
Yeah.
put their whole body outside that pallet. They nose their face out to grab something, and that was
Oh,
it.
that's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's really spot on the spot to the max.
And it's tough. Really the only way you're going to know that the fish is coming out to get your lure, your flasher's useless at that point.
They were
If you're
straight camera fishing.
Yeah, you're fishing straight up with the camera.
Yep.
Which can be difficult here in Iowa.
I don't know. That's really hard to do for me.
We can really only see maybe 2 or 3 feet in front of the camera. Where there you need to be able to see a little ways. But yeah, it would be nice to get on a real crystal clear body of water and actually fish with a camera.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
Yep. Well, what's cool about doing that too is you can kind of, you may not feel the bite, but you can watch the fish
Suck it in.
Get the jig in, and you can tell if he's just kind of chewing on the outside of it versus actually chewing on the hook part of it.
Yep.
And that's where the finesse comes in of, okay, normally you would set the hook anytime, you kind of feel just a little twitch to it.
Yeah.
And that's where you miss the fish. If the hook's, say it's spun around and he's biting on the other end of it.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool to see. We should do that sometime.
Yeah, and I think another thing
Set it all
too
up.
that'd be slick to do with that is watching your line also. Is get some monofilament instead of fluoro that floats a little bit, and use your line indicator instead of trying to feel the bite. I think that would be clutch.
Oh, that's real finesse fishing. We're coming up on it.
Yeah. And we're coming up on is catfishing season here soon.
It's true.
I see a lot more cats being pulled through the ice here. That's telling me that usually I like to wait for I don't know if it'll really happen this year, but once the oxygen levels start getting low and those shads start dying, that's when it's game on.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a whole lot else to say about fishing.
We'll talk a little
wood.
bit about contours and lake structure, natural structure.
Yeah, that's the part that I really get pumped up about. I like
master.
fishing the lake structure, contour lines, knowing kind of where you're at on the lake and kind of identifying bottom content. So if you're fishing mud, sand, rock, a transition between their weeds. Surprisingly enough, that weed line, if you're fishing a body of water with a weed line in the winter, there's a hell of a lot of fish that run that weed line. Even if it's dead, there's still fish that'll hang out around there. But so what I got my hummingbird pulled up right now, and I've got Big Creek pulled up. So Big Creek is a lake located just north and west of Des Moines. It's about 800 acres, dammed up. What's kind of unique about this lake is it's really I fish it as kind of 2 different bodies of water. You got kind of the upper half, which is more of a large basin style lake. Then the lower half is really steep drop offs down into 60 foot, more of your kind of straight line flowage area. And there's just bottom content for days. Because really all it is just a dammed up ravine big ass ravine is what it was before. So, number one thing I do on this is I start turning on depth highlight on the hummingbird.
On the Lake Master chips.
Yeah. So when I first heard about doing that, I was like, oh, I can see the contour lines. I can see what I'm looking at. Any idiot can see that. It's not that big of a deal. Well, now that I've started using it more habitually, it is clutch. Because there's just little areas that you don't quite notice. There's little finesse areas. You're talking about 800 acres. You can't possibly just see all your lines and then know exactly what depths you're at.
Yep.
You get lost. So you start running that contour or that depth highlight. Well, the next question is, what depths do I highlight? What depths are important? If I'm highlighting 20 foot worth of depth, that's pretty broad. You're not really going to see what you're looking for. So in particular areas, particularly like Big Creek, I almost always, just because of the way the structure sets up, if I'm fishing that north half of the lake, from the east boat ramp north, I usually set that depth highlight right at about 15 foot. And then I plus and minus 5 feet. So that puts me at 10 to 20 foot.
Okay.
Is what I'm looking at.
Range.
Yep. And it does a great job of highlighting some offshore structure. And then it also does a great job of highlighting where some of that shallow structure or some of that shallow ground starts to drop off into some of the deeper water that I'm really looking to target.
Yep.
And that's really up my game. Ice fishing. Big Creek is running that depth highlight.
Yep.
So then after that, what I'm looking for usually, kind key points would be a steep drop off from the depth that I have highlighted down into deeper water, and hopefully that deeper water either goes out into a basin or goes out into the creek. Or if it's towards later of the day, I'll look for drop offs going from shallow water down into the depth highlight that I'm looking for. And that's where that's a lot of times that's the juice.
That's the juice.
Yeah. Kind of some dry details there, but that's what I look for anyways.
Cool.
And then a lot of times you can get into different bottom content also while you're fishing that. I mean, you'll be in some real mucky, muddy areas if you're real shallow above 10 foot. And then as you transition down into 20 foot, you'll start to get actual lake bottom hardness. And then you can, sometimes in those drops and transitions, there's some rock and stuff you can find out in there. And that, finding that rock, that can be the juice out there on Big Creek.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a ton of structure out there. That's what's so difficult.
Yep.
That I feel like to fish Big Creek is there's just so much structure for fish to relate to.
You get lost out there a little bit, but there's still some key points. I mean, I still think the rule of thumb of 90% of the fish live in 10% of the water still applies out there. I mean, you'll see there's a roadbed out there that where 90% of the fishermen fish also. I'm not saying 90% of the fish are there anymore, but that's where everybody likes to fish.
Well, you can definitely tell the people that are out there figuring out the pattern are always the one posting the pictures of catching the fish out there.
Catching nicer walleyes.
And everyone else is saying that Big Creek sucks.
Yeah. So I had a real love-hate relationship with Big Creek a lot until this year. I think we finally started figuring out what's going on out there this year. Open water. So my neighbor down the street, retired, that dude freaking pounds monster walleyes and smallmouth bass out of Big Creek.
Smallies, yep.
And I have never even seen a smallmouth bass out there. And usually I'd be like, oh, yeah, whatever, Snook, you're just shooting the shit.
Yep.
And then he pulls up pictures. And I'm like, God dang it.
Of him standing by the boat ramp.
Yeah, standing by the boat ramp.
Says Big Creek.
Yep. With the sign that says Big Creek, holding like a freaking 26-inch walleye. Yep. The one time he had a pair of smallmouths.
Gosh.
And then he releases everything. I don't think he keeps anything.
Oh, that's good. Good for him.
But he does. He must throw them in his live well and then takes quick pictures of them and then pops them all back.
Sure. Show him off to his buddies.
Yeah.
Make you jealous.
Oh my gosh! But he spends a lot of time out there. I mean, I'll give it to him. He's put in a heck of a lot of work out there. But I think the key is he's retired also.
Well, in 30 years when we retire, we can go out there.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I can accelerate that a little bit.
That'd be nice. Less than 30 years?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Good for you.
Maybe.
Man, I think I'd get bored. If I was 55 years old and retired, man, I'd want to still
I'd just be fishing all the time.
Man, I don't know. I could do it probably for a solid year of just straight fishing, but...
Yeah. But, where was I going with this? That's another thing I wanted to mention. Specifically, also, Big Creek. Wow. So everyone's all horned up about Big Creek right now because some guy caught two average-sized walleyes. Well, for Big Creek, they're pretty good-sized walleyes. The guy caught like a 19 and a half and like a 23-incher. That's what it looked like. So people are all horned up about it now, and he posted on Facebook. He's like, yeah, Big Creek. You know what I'm willing to bet? Because he took those pictures inside a hut, is that they were not on Big Creek. That's what I would do. I would post that about everything. I just like, all of this came from Big Creek.
Yep.
But, so yeah, I'm sure there's 10,000 people out there right now. I had 2 messages on my phone this morning of guys that I knew that were heading out to Big Creek.
Yep.
Never been there, wondering if I had any tips for them. Number one tip I'd say for fishing Big Creek is there's not a lot of weeds. So when you find weeds and weed lines, fishing not in there but around there can be pretty key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like this time of year with how much snow we've gotten, it's just going to be a slushy mess out there.
Yeah, and the ice isn't very thick yet. I don't know, maybe 8 inches.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be pretty slushy out there. But I mean, it sounds like there's still fish being caught. It sounds like they're catching a lot of wipers out there right now, which those are a hell of a lot of fun to catch.
Fun.
That's probably my number one favorite targeted species out there.
Yep.
Those things are just little cannonballs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then on one of our first episodes, talking about using your flasher to your advantage. I mean, you talked a little bit about figuring out bottom content and what the bottom is made up of. So we're talking, being able to read your flasher to tell, is it a rock bottom? Is it a muddy bottom, sandy bottom, weedy bottom? What that looks like on there. And that's actually reading the marks below the bottom. That helps you kind of interpret what that might look like. And a lot of that comes from just time out on the water.
Yep.
And
Understanding
determining,
what you're looking
knowing what you're sitting on, put your flasher down, see what the content.
Yep. But at the same time, don't be afraid to drop something heavy down there and on the end of your line and pull it up and see if some clay comes up with it or kind of what comes up with it.
Yep.
But
yeah, I mean, really throwing a camera down and just looking around, you can tell a lot of what the content looks like. And then also, a camera down with your jig and just let it drop to the bottom, see what it does.
See what happens. Yeah.
Yep. Does it go poof?
That's one thing I really can appreciate
up?
about running the camera is you can see the action of your jigs. You can see exactly kind of how your jig stroke is affecting what you're doing down there. Because I think a lot of times people get a little over aggressive and you got way too much movement going down there and you don't realize it. Really all you want is just a little flicker.
Well, and anymore, like everyone is going towards long rods.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's all about.
So you got a lot of leverage.
I get
really
having
rip.
The longest rod you can fit basically.
Yep.
But at the same time, that you have to be aware of what that's doing to your jig because that's just a big lever on the end.
Yep.
You're just ripping baits all over.
Yep.
So
Primarily with that, what I do with the camera is I want to set up on a transition point. Whether that's a transition of if I'm fishing a steep break, I rarely fish on the break. That's just not a situation. I would either fish the bottom of that break as it levels out, or I'd fish the top of that break. I've drilled holes and I've fished the break a little bit, but I've never really had a lot of success. Usually, if it's in the middle of the afternoon, first go to, sun's high, is I'm going to fish the bottom of that break.
Yep.
That's kind of just a corridor for fish to go back and forth. Early morning, evening, I'll fish the top of that break. That'll be the primary focus points anyways.
Yep.
And then the next thing I'd be looking for is what else is there in that area. I mean, I'm not just fishing. I mean, a lot of these lakes just have shoreline breaks that go on all the way around the lake.
Sure.
Well, which one do I want to go with? Where do I want? You want to look for other key attributes that come into there. So maybe there is a brush pile right around there. Maybe there are weeds. Maybe there's a road bed. Maybe you hit the break and then you have a transition to a different bottom content. That's where you want to be. Then that's really where, when you talk about high percentage areas, those are going to be the high percentage areas.
Yeah, and look for well-traveled paths that fish can go on. You talk about corridors and travel areas where fish want to go from, their weedy spot to a deeper spot to where they feed to where they go move throughout the day. You can kind of set up on those funnel areas. Yeah,
those are, to me, I guess when I first started out, those were kind of buzzwords. A lot of people like to say that stuff, but I didn't really know what it meant.
Yeah.
Like, how do I know? I don't know. Yeah, sure. This guy just told me that this area right here is a funnel corridor, but when I go to look at a map myself, I don't freaking know what a funnel corridor looks like if I've got my own situation. So really what, I guess, so that's when I started just equating multiple forms of structure together.
Yes.
And that's where I started running.
Get into your higher percentage points area of fishing.
And then, and then now that I've got more into it, those just happen to also be your corridors.
Yep.
Yeah. Just different terminology sort of deal.
Yep.
Because, sometimes I think folks, if you start really listening to the pros and sometimes like that, some of their terminology and how they speak is, you just kind of get confused on exactly what they're talking about. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, they spend so much damn time on the water that you just don't know. You get lost a little bit.
Yep.
But hope that helped. I guess I got another point with the bottom structure.
Go for it.
Especially ice fishing, you can get offshore. So if you don't have a boat, ice fishing offshore, look for isolated pieces of structure also. So little humps out in the water. And they don't have to be real big, obvious humps. I mean, I'm talking 3, 4, 5 feet. Nothing major. A lot of your free service mapping is those contours aren't going to be in there. So paying for a decent map.
Yeah.
You can find some humps in some areas that can really produce that not everyone can see and know about.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think fishing with some sort of map is so much better than just going out and trying to guess.
Yep.
Even just drilling holes in an area you think that is going to be good and then trying to use your flasher to determine the pattern is difficult.
Yep. There's a lot of things out there that catch fishermen more than fish. Mapping is not one of them. Mapping is something that
it's money well
catches,
spent.
it's money well spent, catches fish. I mean, you got like your aerator pump. They're nice, handy for the fishermen. At the end of the day,
Yep.
Not going to put, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a necessity to be out there fishing.
Yep.
But mapping has become one of the necessities that I wouldn't go without.
Yep, absolutely. And I think as us fishing as a team, it's helped me out a lot.
Oh yeah, to see why they're there. You start to figure out why. That's
Yes.
the question. That's the answer that the question I'm always asking myself while I'm out there is, well, why is this fish here? Why is it in this location at this time of day feeding on what I'm putting down there?
Yep, exactly.
And if you can start to put those questions together, you can start answering that question for a lot of lakes, and that'll really turn you on.
Oh yeah, get you going, get you on some fish. So yeah, hopefully you guys learned a lot on today's episode. I know it's sure a lot of fun just sitting down talking ice fishing for a while.
Shooting the breeze. Yeah, I know. I'm kind of thinking
breeze.
about hopefully I can scoot out later this afternoon for an hour or two while it's nap time.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Because yeah, it is not a bad day.
No, it'll be a nice day to be out quick. It'll probably be a little slushy, but
Yep,
I'll be all right. I'll take the Kirby's jet sled and
there you go.
throw a few things in there and just go
Yep.
drill a couple of holes and see what happens.
Yep, that sounds good. So, well, thanks everyone for joining in, listening with us. Keep it up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think the way things are going, we're going to hit 10,000 this week.
Yeah,
10,000
that'll be
downloads.
cool.
Oh my
we'll have a little
gosh.
surprise for you guys for 10,000. Because yeah, it's very exciting for us to see that take off in 15 episodes.
Yeah,
14.
unbelievable.
Yep.
Really appreciate it.
Yep. So keep it up. Keep the comments coming. Keep the posts coming. All the love on Facebook's pretty
We've
cool.
had more comments this past week than I think we've
Yeah.
ever had between emails, and I've gotten some Facebook stuff,
Yep.
and yeah, it's been fantastic. It really kind of keeps the drive going for doing this sort of stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
Yep, we really appreciate it for everyone to listen in and just keep giving us comments and ratings, and that helps a lot.
And if I email you, email me back, dang it.
Oh, yeah, come on, people. No one uses email anymore. But yeah, we're up to, I think, 38 ratings right now on iTunes.
Is it?
On Apple Podcasts. That's pretty huge.
Nice.
That's starting to get a little sample size going.
Well, we've got, almost 60-some followers on Podbean.
Yeah.
I didn't know even people...
didn't know
it
you
looks
could
like a
even
lot of people
follow
are just
stuff.
creating profiles just to follow us on Podbean.
Yeah.
I didn't know...
So yeah,
I
and
didn't
then
know so many people were on it.
the one listener said he found us right away on Spotify, and you type in ice fishing on Spotify and search for podcasts. We're the top one.
No shit.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, and some guy said that's how he found us on Google too, just Ice Fishing Podcast.
Yes.
Boom.
Yep.
Short Rod Show.
Yep. That's pretty sweet. So,
Yeah.
like Brett said, we're all over the internet.
Yeah. And now we really are. Before it was just kind of like yeah, but now we really are on
For
the
sure.
internet everywhere.
Awesome. Well, until next time, guys, thanks for listening to
The Short Rod Show.